that stuff is just so important, what he just said. Not only limitless growth, he said you can have growth with low inflation. In fact, growth causes low inflation. That's phenomenal. Total supply side economic analysis from President Donald J. Trump. I mean, I can't get over how much I like that. Anyway, I'm going to jaw with some of my pals. Douglas Holtz-Eakin is here, American Action Forum, president and former CBO director. He was the best CBO director of our lifetime. And Dan Clifton, investor all-star, head of policy research at Strategas. Thank you, gentlemen. I tell you, Doug Holtz-Eakin, I don't want to obsess. Actually, I do want to obsess about it. That stuff, Ronald Reagan was the last president that talked like that, okay? He's just saying, you know, grow the economy. It'll absorb the excess money. And this is why I want to get rid of Jay Powell, okay? And it's not personal. I know Jay probably thinks it's personal. We're going to get to this docudrama that's going on in Washington. But the fact is the Federal Reserve doesn't agree with Trump. The Federal Reserve worries if growth goes up, inflation's going to go up. If unemployment falls, inflation's got to rise. Trump is saying no, no, no. And I mean, it's just so refreshing, Doug.
Well, as you know, Larry, how the growth goes up is what matters. Is it supply-side growth that generates additional output through innovation, through capital accumulation, through better skills and productivity of workers? That kind of growth takes pressure off prices. That lowers unit costs. You don't have to worry about it. That's what we'd like to see. That's what you want to keep your eye on.
Isn't that what we have now?
Growth that comes from just pushing the economy.
Isn't that
that's what we got in the third quarter? No question.
I mean, I think that's. Yeah, so I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's what we got in the third quarter. I'd love, I can't wait to see the fourth quarter numbers, to be honest. I know we have the GDP now from the Fed, but I want to see it when they close the books, because that's an important quarter.
Dan Clifton, so let me come to this whole business. It's going to come to nothing, okay? Trump basically cooled tensions with Powell. I don't want to fire him, okay? Whatever happened. He's not. My view and others. Jay Powell has damaged Fed independence. He's damaged economic policy. He's been very partisan. He's done a lot of cockamamie things with woke and DEI and stuff like that. But he's not a criminal. And Trump said today again, the two Kevins, Warsh and Hassett, they're the front runners. I'd like to get one of them in there because they agree with Mr. Trump. You can grow the economy on the supply side and reduce inflation. And that's what this country, hell, you can get us back to 5 or 6% growth, at least for some period of time. So I think that somehow or other, the Justice Department, maybe they'll have a conversation with Jay Powell about the documents and so forth. But that's going to go away. It's going to go away. It's going to come to nothing. You may disagree, but that's my take.
No, Larry, let me start off by saying that no matter who becomes Fed chair under Donald Trump, they all have the view that we are in a productivity boom. And when you have that productivity boom, you can have lower rates and you could start to unwind the Fed balance sheet, particularly once you get financial deregulation. And I think investors and definitely the media are missing this, that the big vote next year is not on Fed rate cuts. It is on how we are going to reform the financial system. And are we going to unlock all that dead capital sitting on bank balance sheets that could be put into productive investments? And so getting the Fed chairman out of the way, getting pro-growth supply-siders on the Federal Reserve is priority number one. I was surprised by the events of this weekend. I thought there was an agreement. Jay Powell, you leave the Fed after your chairmanship. We won't bring up this building anymore. So something went a little bit haywire, but there has to be an all-clear signal so that the Senate knows that they can begin to move ahead on the president's nominees. And a lot of these senators are going to be reluctant until they see that all clear. And we're at the beginning stages. I think you're absolutely right, Larry. You are starting to see the walk back here, and the walk back is a good thing for the U.S. economy. That being said, we have this amazing economy that's going to happen regardless. I just want to make it even better, and that's how you get there.
Doug Holtz-Eakin, you're a regulatory expert among many things. Was it $2 trillion worth of regulations during the Biden years compared to very little? And Trump's first term. Will we get this banking deregulation? So banks, I'm saying banks are actually starting to make C&I loans again, but a lot of, the capital requirements seem to be very difficult. Now, the banks are reporting good profits. That's helping the stock market. And healthy banks are good for the economy. Large banks, mid-sized banks. What's your take on that? Can we get the kind of deregulation among the banking system that Dan Clifton's talking about?
You can do a lot of things without legislation, and I think we've begun to see that already. I mean, I think Vice Chair Bowman is doing a tremendous job of revisiting what really goes into bank supervision. That should really be supervision to make sure things are safe and sound, and stay out of how they make their money. That's their call. You don't get to tell them, hey, this is a reputational risk, you can't touch it. And that's what's been going on. So, back off, let banks make their loans to people they think can make money and get out of the way. That's a step in the right direction. They got to finish up this Basel III thing that went south the last time they tried. Get to nice, clean, simple capital requirements. Don't penalize our international competitiveness, which is where they were headed. And you do those two things, you make a lot of progress without any legislation. So yes, the Trump guys can do this on their own, and they should.
Dan Clifton, I have to show this chart. This is an Emmy award-winning chart of M2 and inflation measured by goods. I mean, this is like Milton Friedman will rise from the dead to give you a big fat kiss if he ever could see this chart. Look at that. That's an incredible chart. M2 money growth and goods inflation. Basically, it's showing you're not at 30% anymore like we were COVID and post-COVID. And therefore, I mean, look, I was trained as a mantra. I don't believe all this stuff. It's not perfect anymore. But basically, M2 is contained, and it's not extreme. And your point is that inflation is contained. And we're going to see more good news on inflation. And Dan, I've been touting on the show the importance of energy prices coming down permeates the entire economy. So you're an optimist on low inflation.
Larry, we came into 2025 and everybody was talking about tariffs causing inflation. Tariffs don't cause inflation. Right. They work like a tax and they get offset. And so now we're learning that they don't. There was a story in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times saying, oh, why aren't tariffs causing the inflation that we thought it would? It doesn't impact the money supply. So as long as the money supply is restrained, we don't have inflation risk. And the best way to get there is productive GDP growth from supply side policies, and inflation will remain restrained. I would point out, though, Larry, that we have a lot of shock and awe coming in 2026, tax refunds, Fed rate cuts, the Fed balance sheet's expanding, but we also have $200 billion of supply side pro-growth business tax provisions that are designed to spur factory production, cap good investment, research and development, and that should power the economy through 2026.
I tell you,
much more economic growth than the current consensus.
I think knowing Mr. Trump as I do, look, just throw it all at it. He's saying grow the economy, grow the economy, grow the economy. Get your factories here. You don't have to pay tariffs. I mean, I know not everybody agrees with it. I happen to agree with it. Just throw the kitchen sink at it. Take a rip at the ball. Just let it go, for God's sake. We used to grow the economy at 3.5% a year for about 100 years. And then somehow in the last 25 years, it's been 2% or less. And then people, that's affordability. Take home pay. Take home pay after taxes. Let that go up. Up, up, up. Don't worry about inflation. Don't worry about tariffs. Let Taiwan help finance it. China doesn't like it. Doug Holtz-Eakin, I got to give you a whack, though. The greatest health care plan in history was released today. I don't know if you had I don't know if you had a chance to look. I mean, I'm all for, direct to consumers, get rid of the middlemen, but you know an awful lot about this as a former CBO director. We don't have all the time in the world, but what do you think about the great healthcare plan, as he is calling? What do you think?
Well, as you know, I have a lot of scars from various healthcare plans that have passed me. So, look, this is the great set of ideas. Certainly a big issue people care a lot about right now. But I will remind you, since you can understand this, They need 218 in the House, and the margins are really tight. They need a Senate that's, really divided. And this is a long way from legislation and accomplishment. So I'm thrilled to see ideas put into the debate, but I'd really like to see the Senate the Congress be a little more productive this year. They've been at a standstill for a while.
Well, it's a good point. Dan Clifton on the way out here. I think what Mr. Trump is doing, though, he's laying down some very good principles. Transparency is an important principle. Direct to the consumer is an important principle. You or I or Doug we may not agree with every detail in this plan. I understand that, but I think a lot of these principles are worth, getting them into the stream. Because I don't want to. Do we want a socialist healthcare system? Do we want an Obamacare-ized healthcare system? I don't think so.
Yeah, so I would start off by just saying that, the Senate is trying to negotiate some sort of extension of those Obamacare subsidies, which is not the direction we want to be going in. And yet now the president's now getting in front of those senators saying, these are our principles. These are what you should be negotiating on and trying to effectuate change. They may even try a reconciliation bill. I'm not sure they'll be successful getting a reconciliation bill, so some of these ideas can be in there. But I think directionally, the Republicans have to change the conversation on healthcare. They're losing over subsidies that are actually raising the cost to consumers over time and definitely raising the cost to taxpayers. So just getting that debate started, I think, was important by the president.
Yeah, great stuff.
Larry, if I could say one thing, Larry, just one thing.
Sure.
Delivering health care is an economic activity. Your health policy better be good economic policy or you're headed in the wrong direction. And people somehow think health is different. It has special rules that economics doesn't apply. That's wrong. And that's why we get such bad health policy.
No,
we need good economic policy. Good.
I agree, man. Look, I see healthcare as an Italian restaurant. It's a menu. It's a menu. What does the pasta cost tonight? What does the sauce cost tonight? What is the cannoli going to cost tonight? I love it. Healthcare as an Italian menu. How about that? New York City. You guys come up here, I'll buy a big dinner at one of my favorite Italian spots.